when the film got over and it went to black screen, I just sat there for 5 minutes.
The people I'm working with are all more talented than I am. So I'm still learning. This girl who, first day in school with a pencil box, pen, highlighters, and, sitting with, first bencher vibes.
He's giving me updates on like what's happening on social media and who said what. And so yeah, he's always been supportive.
There's a lot of qualities that Tia and I share. So I think for me, the
Say
big
one.
Insecure.
Hello everyone, welcome to Pink Villa, guys.
Hi, Aina.
So the trailer looks super promising, guys, and it looks very urban. My first question is to actually Shakul. What I want to know is there is a line in the trailer where Deepika's character goes like, "Aren't you guilty?" to Siddharth's character, and he goes like, "I did what I had to." My question to you is, while building a character like that, was there a sense of fear at any point as to how the audience will take it? Because he said that line with such ease and no hesitance when he's making an unethical choice. So what's your take on that?
Well, I think we were very sure from the very beginning that we wanted to make a grown-up movie and we wanted to respect the maturity of the audience. So we wanted to deal with complex stuff and we didn't want to oversimplify or do a lip service to it. We wanted to really go ahead and deal with complex stuff in a sophisticated manner. So no, I think all of us were very on the same page, and I look forward to those kind of movies where characters do go into the gray zone and they accept themselves for who they are and who they become. So no, I wasn't really scared. In fact, I was excited, if anything.
All right. And we've seen in Kapoor and Sons, when you're casting for a film, again an ensemble cast, you're very bang on with the chemistry, not only between the girl and the guy, but also when it comes to the father and son or mother and daughter and so on. What was in your head when you were casting for this film?
So I think when we start writing, Aisha and I start discussing the world of the film. And for me, the world of the film is always more than just the 2 or 3 protagonists. It entails and that's really where reality comes in. That's where these characters become believable. And for me, it's not just about casting the leads, but building a world. And world building is really where I feel it's most rewarding and most satisfying. So Aisha and I spend a lot of time. We take a lot of pictures, we move them around. Then I jump in with my casting director, and then Panchmi comes in, and then Panchmi brings in a lot of her inputs and ideas. And it's a process that kind of goes on. But I genuinely think the most fun part is to kind of create the whole world and not just the characters.
My next question is to Deepika. What I want to know is, you said it during your trailer launch that, your character is vulnerable and your emotions are completely stripped. So what I want to know is, while acting, you kind of revisited places that you have faced in your personal life, which was a dark phase in your life. So between action to cut, you kind of go back to that dark phase again to kind of get into the skin of the character. As an actor, how do you switch from that dark phase and then come back to reality when it's been so hard for you?
Well, I don't think as an actor you visit one specific place. I think that all of life's experiences make you who you are, and I think eventually it's all of those emotions that you put into whatever character it is that you're playing. So I think having dealt with mental illness, it's something that I was familiar with, and had this character not had that dimension to her, I would have brought other layers to this character or to some other character that I've played. So it's not specific to any one incident in my life really, but it's more about just different experiences that I've had growing up. And I think that's also part of an actor's life. And I think that's why so much of acting is also just in your personal life, just living life and having different experiences. Because yes, I think a lot of a character is on paper and a lot of it is in the writing. But I think a lot of it, every individual actor brings to the table. So it's not one specific moment, but I think just based on your own experiences and your own intelligence and emotional intelligence, what you bring to a character. But yes, there was certainly, I'd say, familiarity in terms of what Shakun wanted from me for this character.
And when he came to you with the narration, you said that you had a gut feeling at some point in your life that you will work with him in the future. But when you heard it, you kind of took your time to take this film on board. I want to know, what were you thinking to yourself at that point when you were considering this film?
I watched the film 2 days ago and I had exactly the same reaction. When the film got over and it went to black screen, I just sat there for 5 minutes because I think it comes from his films not being linear and his films not being spoon-fed. I think when a film is over, and much like the narration, it takes you time to just process this entire journey that he's taken you on. So, it happened to me during the narration, and now I can say that after watching the film, it's, the same thing happened and moments from the film, visuals from the film are still in my mind, and I watched it like 3 days ago. And so much has happened in the last 3 days, but still, like I'll be doing something and then there'll just be this visual or this scene that comes to my mind. So I think the time that I took really was, yes, one part of it is my process, which is I take my time. It's not like I take months to revert, but I take a couple of days, to think about, has it stayed with me? I hope I'm not being impulsive. So just to process everything, what is it that I can bring to the table? How is this different from everything else that I've done? How can I push the envelope? So those are things that I'm thinking about in that moment, because once you commit to something, then you're in it. Again, I think like when I watched the film the other day, I had the same thing. It's not one message or it's not one takeaway. There are just so many layers. And that's when I realized the title of the film is so apt for the film that we've made, because it's not one thing that you take home. There's just so much to process, and it is very, very layered.
And we're excited to see this. We're excited to see your character for sure. What's been extremely different, which we haven't seen in our industry, is we have an intimacy director on board for this particular film. I want to know, how did you get this idea and why you felt the need to probably choreograph the entire, scene, and how did you guys get comfortable with that entire idea of having an intimacy director on board?
Your idea? She said your idea. It wasn't my idea. It was Shakun's idea.
Well, when we were writing the film, we started to very early on realize that intimacy is going to play a huge part in how I wanted to treat the film. So I wanted to make sure that I've done my background work. And I was doing a lot of just reading interviews of directors who were working in the West. And I realized that they were working with intimacy directors. And I wanted to create and take steps towards creating a new kind of a culture, a new atmosphere for actors to feel safer, to make sure that they know that we're not taking it lightly, and that we're going to deal with it with detail, nuance. And also to deal with it in a way where it's not just supposed to be, it's supposed to be doing the job of storytelling and expressing what these characters are going through. So for me, it was very important to kind of somehow build that world and an atmosphere, right? And then Dar Gai, who's my very dear friend, had done some beautiful work and videos that I loved. So I called her and we decided to go on this journey together. And then we built from there the whole idea and the team. And I think the actors are the only people who can tell you about the experience. For me, it was really just creating the world. And then they were amazing enough to just, trust us on that journey and go with us.
That's amazing. Siddharth, I want to know something that you started off by doing a mega film with Zoya Akhtar and Ranveer Singh, and then working with Yash Raj and now Dharma and Deepika and Shakun and Ananya. It's a huge break, and your choreograph looks like super on point at the moment. How do you manage to not get overwhelmed by these factors and be true to your craft and yourself?
Well, thank you so much. I think it's because the people I'm working with are all more talented than I am. So I'm still learning, and that's how I don't get overwhelmed, because I know that I need to put in more work. I need to work harder, to match up to, the level. Also, it's been my dream, to, be a part of these, production houses, to be associated with, good films and, great directors like Shakun and Zoya, and to be working with, Deepika, Ananya. So for me, I feel it's
He didn't want to say it, he just added it
Forced
quickly.
my name there.
No,
He forced my name.
That's
But
okay.
say, it's okay.
No, it's solely because I think the people I'm working with or I've worked with I believe, are more talented than I am, and I need to really, really, really work hard. And maybe there'll be a day when I'll feel, yes, I'm better, and that's when I think it'll get to my head.
Kitna jhoot bol raha hai?
But not now.
You've never been
Set pe to you always like, I'm done. 2 takes, out. No, I'm joking. No, listen, we had a great time on this set. And as serious as this is sounding, it was a lot more fun on set. I think we had there were laughters in between shots and takes, and even though he's saying I work with more talented people, everybody was on the same page all the time. There was no seniority or better. I think it was just a bunch of friends. And that's what happened. We became friends very early on in the film, and then it was just an experience. It wasn't really good, bad. I think everyone just trying to help each other,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's how I don't get overwhelmed, because they take my case all the time.
And you worked with Ranveer and now Deepika. I want to know, as co-actors, how different are they from each other?
I think they are different but the same. They are
same but different.
same but different. Yeah. I mean, they're different personalities, obviously, but when it comes to the craft, it's the same level of submission, to the writing, to the direction, very disciplined. I mean, the first time I met Ranveer, I was reading with him, and it was not Ranveer Singh. I could just feel that he's just a boy who's trying to kind of get, into the skin of Murad. The first time I met Deepika, she was not Deepika. She was, this girl who, first day in school with a pencil box, pen, highlighters, and, sitting with, first bencher vibes.
She got stationery for the whole crew, I thought.
Yeah.
But she didn't.
No,
You
they were
didn't share your pencil with me.
You didn't
You're
ask.
very particular. If I took it, I feel like you'd shout at me.
You didn't
Like,
ask.
Okay, I'll ask next time.
Yeah, so, I mean, the same, but like in a special way.
And Deepika, what was Ranveer's reaction after seeing the trailer?
He is the most excited for this film to come out, because he's been a big champion of Shakun and me working together. He feels like we're doing what he feels like I do what I do best, and Shakun's doing what he does best, and then therefore when the two of us come together, it gets even better. So he's very, very excited. He's giving me updates on like what's happening on social media and who said what, and so yeah, he's always been supportive, and he continues to be with this film as well.
We love how he promoted it on your birthday as well when he posted that.
Yeah.
You can also talk about how I promoted his films. It's okay. No, but yeah, I mean, he's always been supportive of all of my work, and it's actually a bit strange because when we met, we were doing films together, and then it moved into, I think his first film without me post Padmavat was actually Gully Boy, and so it felt different for me to be like, okay, now you're doing a film and I'm not in it, and then I had a release in which he wasn't there, and so it took some time to just sort of get used to that, because our first interaction with each other was as co-stars. So it took us a while to kind of disconnect from that and just be able to understand each other as actors without being in that film. But yeah, he's very excited about this film.
And Ananya, this particular character of yours requires to be a little more intense. It's more real as compared to the previous films that you've done. I want to know, what was the challenge that you faced, or if you faced any, and how did you go about this process?
Honestly, I haven't done that many films, but I've only done 3. but this is probably the most emotionally fleshed out character that has come my way. And honestly, it's actually all because of Shakun. I'm not just being nice and complimenting you, but no, it really is. He really helped me because I was nervous. Like the fact that they even wanted me to be a part of this film, I was firstly very excited, but then after that, I think even Sid was like, how are we going to actually do it when we thought about it? So I was like, especially...
the same.
But then we did it now. Yeah. So I hope. I think a lot of conversations with Shakun helped. He's the kind of person who seeds an idea into your head and then he makes you feel like you came up with that idea, which I think is kind
I
of
learned
cool.
that trick from Aisha. She does that to me all the time.
Really? Yeah. So
He sells me my own ideas. And then when I take credit, she's like,
now she writes it down also when she gave the idea. Yeah. So, and also I feel like this character was quite similar to how I am as a person. There's a lot of qualities that Tia and I share. So I think for me,
Say one.
Insecure, the biggest one.
hang on.
Yeah, I'm being honest, honestly. But I feel like the hardest part for me was kind of being myself in that way in front of the camera, because sometimes when you're playing another character or someone that's really far away from you, it's kind of easy to, just be in someone else's shoes. But when you're showing a vulnerable and fragile side of yourself in front of the camera, it can get kind of scary. But then it's also really liberating when it goes well.
Yeah, I think I remember when we did our first few round of workshops and readings, like I remember telling myself, like the only thing I need to do is let her be herself. Like I really realized that I have to just get out of her way because she just had to be who she is without changing that. And I think that really worked though. I hope so.
We hope so.
Ananya, who's next on your bucket list after Shakun, now that you've ticked his name?
Zoe was on my bucket list. Zoya was on my bucket list, but I am doing a film now that she's producing, so I'm excited about that. I really want to work with Neeraj Khewan. So
Interesting. So thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Lovely talking. Can't wait for 11th of Feb, and all the very best to you guys.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.